Welcome to your best bets. Monday night of the new PGA Tour season, the long 2-week off season, 3-week off season. I'm not even sure, but shortest off season in sports. The new wraparound season starts this week out in Silverado, California. So we'll talk about that. Obviously, we'll give you some of our best bets and thoughts on that tournament. Talk about the BMW PGA Championship over on the DP World Tour this last week, won by Shane Lowry. Some of the drama that went down with the LIV guys. That's really all that happened this week. Joining me, Johnny Strouser, winner of the US 30 Open. It slipped my mind for a second. US 30 Open this past weekend on the Three Rivers Tour at Eagle Glen. Congrats on the win. That's second win on the tour this season.
Thank you. Yes. Second win on the tour this season. Second time winning the US 30. I won the inaugural one and was a DNP last year, but ended up winning again this year at Eagle Glen. We for the gross division, we didn't have the biggest of fields. Wasn't the mightiest that Allen County and Northeast Indiana had to offer, but cool to, a win's a win. When you beat people and you beat people and you play with all the time. I mean, how can you not just enjoy it? I mean, if nothing else, it was good on that mark.
Well, you beat there's definitely a few good players there in the gross that you beat. And I think Zach's mentioned a couple of times how good Chris Schweitzer's played this season. You and I both play with Bailey Marquardt on practice round for the city. So some good players you beat out. I know Eagle Glen, we'll just say it's not your favorite place to play golf, but evidently something was working well enough for you on Saturday.
I don't know. I mean, that golf course is, I guess we're going to try to be nice. It is really tricked up. I mean, there are a lot of just weird holes and a lot of golf shots, as you may or may not remember, that just they don't make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. There's fairways that are pinched in. There's trouble in a lot of places, and it's kind of an unforgiving golf course. It was in pretty good shape. I mean, the greens rolled good. The fairways were really, really nice. The rough was nice. So anybody that's interested in playing golf on a golf course that is in good shape, definitely recommend that. I mean, I had no problem with that, but the layout is kind of weird. And I moved down here after Eagle Glen was built and everything. And I remember you telling me that this was a golf course that when they first built it was going to be this next great, I guess, championship golf course in Fort Wayne. And it's got some good holes, but it's got some of these golf holes that they got trees and hazards and weird angles that are just in like wrong positions and everything. And it just messes with you. And there's a lot of trouble. There's a lot of tall grass and mud or water, whatever it is, all over the place. Luckily, they play that as a local rule. It's not out of bounds really anywhere. It's more like red stake. So you take your relief from where it crossed the hazard rather than the stroke and distance. So it was kind of neat there. Luckily for me, the greens, like I said, they rolled good. I putted pretty well. There's a couple putts I should have made, but I made outside of 10 feet, I probably made 5 or 6 putts, I would say, of that 10 foot or longer, highlighted by the one on that would be 15. The round was getting pretty close, and I'd kind of been fed up with how I was playing. I 3-putted the previous hole, which was a par 5 for birdie. Got up to 15. Got up to 15. Snap hooked it left. And this fairway has got to be 100 yards wide. And I snap hook it left into the junk, lose a brand new ball, take a drop. Can't see the green because the junk kind of crosses the fairway there. I hit it to about 65 feet. Luckily, it kind of held onto the green there and just buried it center cut from 65 feet out. At that point, I mean, these guys probably wanted to quit because I was really just scraping it. It was warm. It was just kind of uncomfortable and everything like that. We were all walking and everything, and I make that, and then 16's a par 4. Chris Schweitzer, who takes second place, ends up hitting about a 50-footer for birdie, something like that. Maybe it was 40 feet. I had about 15, 18 feet for birdie, make that putt for birdie, and then end up, I knocked it in the shit on 17 to have to take a drop, make a pretty good up and down bogey. And then, so I'm exhausted this time. This is pretty funny. You know, the 18th hole. The 18th hole is like this really kind of tight one. You got crap all along the left, and then you've got really nowhere to lay it up. So you got to lay it up to like 130 yards, or you've got to go for the green there. But it's a very reachable par 5.
Yeah, uphill second shot. Yeah,
uphill second shot. No, there's no way to run it up or anything like that. It is all carry over this bunker. So I'm my back's feeling it at this point, whatever. So I hit this little ping pong ball drive, probably goes about 230, 240 right. I don't know if it's in the hazard. I don't know if it's in the rough. I don't really know. You can't see anything out there because everything's kind of blind. Chris and Bailey outdrove me by 70 yards. Not kidding you, 70 yards. They were at the 150 marker. I had 219 pin. It was a front left pin, kind of against a backstop. And I'm like, I'm so tired. I just need to hit it over the green or something like that. So took out my 3 hybrid and tried to hit a high cut. I didn't really hit a high cut. I just kind of hit a nice kind of soft ball there. Lands right in front of the green on the upslope, kicks up and rolls to about 2.5 feet for eagle. So,
geez.
Of course, the putt, and then the putt was actually a downhill slider. It was actually a legitimately tough putt. I lipped it out where it actually kicked back at me, but I knew I had beat Chris. That was to win. That was going to be to win a skin, and there was only 2 skins on the day, so that would have been a third. It would have been a little bit nicer to win that skin, but ended up making birdie. Shot 73, won by 2 shots. But really, I mean, if I would have just kind of crumbled and played that hole and made bogey, I would have tied Chris, and we both would have shot 75, and then we're in a tough spot there. But that was actually one of the cool shots, and I'm still kind of aggravated that I missed that little 2.5 footer for eagle. But that was a pretty cool shot. I see it going up there, hits bouncing up there, and I'm like, oh, I think that's pretty tight there, and it was good fun.
Yeah, good feeling. I'm sure to hit. I mean, your final full shot of the tournament. Like that and finish on a high note like that and really win the tournament regardless of the putt. That's I mean, it sounds like your total feat of putts made was quite high. If you had kept track of that, maybe next time you will. Looks like I'm not familiar with John Gardner. He wins the net division, so shout out John. I'm sure you're listening to this one. The net division was a sizable field, 27 people, so congrats to you. Congrats to John Gardner. 2 weeks is the Tour Championship at Cherry Hill. It's only 2-day events on the Three Rivers Tour final events. So I'm sure that will be a good field as it's, the last tournament on either the Golf Association or the Three Rivers Tour of the season. So that should be fun.
Yeah. That was it was good. And anybody I encourage, get out there and play. Sign up for this event. It is a 2-day event, but Cherry Hill is going to be in good shape. They're going to punch the greens here pretty soon, but layout is fun. I know everybody likes it. Get out there and support the tour, whether you're in the gross division or net, just to get some experience, because you never know. This might help you try to qualify for city next year. You want to play in those events, play in these ones, get used to it, get the camaraderie. There's a lot of good dudes that play. So hopefully we get a good turnout.
The BMW PGA Championship from this past weekend. It's the equivalent of what the Players Championship is on the PGA Tour. It's the crown jewel of the DP World Tour season. Played at Wentworth. I really like watching this tournament. I like this golf course. I think it's a really good, and it kind of mirrors the Players as far as some of the finishing holes. Really good risk reward holes. It tests your game quite a bit down the stretch. The scoring is usually pretty low, but the last 9 holes, you can really have these big swings. We saw John Rahm really shot 29 on the back with a bogey, which, by the way, the back nine at Wentworth is a par 37.
Seven.
So that's a pretty insane finish there with the bogey. He finishes third, but just short of Shane Lowry. And I feel like we've talked about him a lot this year, as far as who's just played a lot of really good golf, a lot of consistent golf. And I would argue he's probably played top 10 golf in the world this season. He just hasn't had the wins like you think. And we talk about this all the time, how random and variable wins can be. I mean, you look at a guy like Tony Finau, how you can play such good golf for so long, and just for whatever reason, the wins don't come. And then you keep banging your head up against the wall, and then they come for him 2 in a row this season. But good to see Lowry really get rewarded for good play. I can't think of anyone that's much more likable, especially for American fans, hardcore American golf fans, of a guy that's, not from America. He just seems like a really good dude, someone you just want to go hang out with. So good to see him win. And he seemed to really, really meant a lot to him. And it seems like every time he wins, you kind of appreciate how much it means to him.
Yeah, I think it's very, very well said there. Yeah, this is the flagship event for the DP World Tour, and they only played 54 holes because late in the first round, it was announced that Queen Elizabeth had passed away, so they ended up canceling the rest, or they postponed the rest of Thursday, canceled Friday essentially, and somewhat surprisingly to me, they actually restarted Saturday. I figured with it being in England, that's something that they wouldn't do, because I mean there was a lot of other events and stuff that got canceled. But I do applaud them for wanting to go on with the event and everything, and hosting it. And they did from what I saw, which wasn't a ton, but from what I saw was a good job in in honoring what had happened and everything. And it's kind of a tough situation there, as far as what they had to do to accommodate the golfers and the and the fans and everything like that. But with all that being said, yeah, Wentworth, a fantastic track. It's hosted the Ryder Cup. It's not your Open Championship rotation where they play a lot of the older links seaside golf courses. This one is not that. It is inland. It's very green, but it's a great layout. It's not the pros love playing it. I mean, it's always in good shape and good there. But Shane Lowry, though, we see a little bit of him because he's playing a lot here in America. I think, though, if you don't watch him or watch golf or follow golf as much as we do, you don't understand. I think this guy is just a natural. He's a good guy. He gets along with the American players quite well. He respects them. He's not, you can, he's not always in, I guess, Ryder Cup mode where, each side, country basically hates each other. He's rarely in that type of, the attitude there, but he's a great player. Won at Royal Portrush at the Open Championship a few years ago. Should have won the Honda Classic if not for that weather that rolled in on the last hole, and he got screwed. I mean, I know Sepp Straka won and he deserved to win. You could say that and everything like that, but I mean, Shane Lowry, if that quick rainstorm wouldn't have blown in, he would have won that. And who knows what kind of season that would have kicked him off to that early in the year there. But
I think he should have won the Heritage as well.
And he should have won the Heritage. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, Jordan Spieth. I mean, with all the putts that he missed, shouldn't have. So yeah, I mean, there's another event right there. So you kind of knew his time was coming. He seems to be. He's a big game player, so he does show up because he's really good, in the major championships. But he comes to play, and he's one of the top, like you said, 10 players probably in the world. Consistently throughout the season there. And I know we talked about him a lot on this podcast of, I like this guy, or we've picked him on a best bet. We've never really talked about him much because the wins aren't necessarily there. But for a guy who feels comfortable with his game, knows his game, and is a good player all around, and he kind of fits whatever golf course. I mean, the wind doesn't bother him growing up in Ireland. I mean, he can play in that. He could play in no wind. He could play long golf courses, short golf courses, and he doesn't have really much of a glaring weakness there. So good to see him win this event. And he's actually pretty funny to follow on Twitter when he wins these things. Like when he won the Open Championship, he basically partied for like 2 weeks straight. I mean, it was just him drinking Guinness and everything like that. Well, he did a video where, he celebrated and his team celebrated, and, his caddy and his manager and all that stuff, and really kind of showed the more personal side of it, the other side of we see the winning, and then they move on to the next event. We got to kind of see a little bit of what they do as far as the celebrations and stuff like that. And he's a little more out there, and I think he's very engaging, not necessarily one-on-one with fans, but letting that little bit in. And I like watching him play. I like how he interacts, like I said, with the American players, and with his Ryder Cup teammates and everything like that. And I hope that he wins more, because I think he's good for the game of golf. And I think if more people over here, or with more success, more people over here I think they get his personality and see that he's a good player and a, relatively good dude.
Yeah, two things. I'm glad you mentioned how much of a big game hunter he is. I mean, he's won a WGC in the past. He seems to get up for the big events. I actually think his game's profiles really well for the majors. Like I could see him winning a second major sometime in the next 2-3 seasons. I just think I remember us talking about him. It seemed like one of us, you, me, or Zach, always had him for a top 20 at the majors, because his floor is incredibly high. His game is complete. He's not necessarily the longest hitter, but he's accurate. He's a really good putter, and I trust him to play tough golf courses well. Secondly, I wanted to mention that, you were talking about the Queen and all the events. I wanted to mention to everyone that your knowledge and just overall awareness of the United Kingdom culture, I was really impressive to me Friday and Saturday. You were I was at work, obviously, but you weren't, and you were just rattling off text like, I think this is going to happen, and here's the precedent, and I don't know, man, this is a big deal. And I'm like, dude, I didn't know. And listen, if anyone needs to ask any questions about England, you go to Johnny fucking Strouser. He will set you straight. I was disappointed. First of all, I was excited because I had Victor Hovland. I bet him pre-tournament. He was looking really good, obviously, going into Sunday. Didn't work out. He was really struggling off the tee on Sunday. Unfortunately, took him out of it. Rory, I think, was his B- or C+ game. I don't think he played great this week, but that just shows how good of golf he's been playing, that he can be there and really have a putt that I thought was going in on the last hole to potentially send us into a playoff. So Rory's still just playing out of his mind, and I know he's got quite a few events over there on the DP World Tour to try to win the race to Dubai. He said he really wants to win that along with the FedEx Cup. So I would not be surprised to see him keep playing well as you go forward if you're interested in those events. What else from the BMW this week? The LIV guys got to talk about it. I mean, I don't know if we'll talk about their play. A lot of them played decent. Reed, Taylor Gooch. I mean, you got to give it to Taylor Gooch, right? He's never played this event. He's only playing this event to acquire world ranking points so he can stay in the Masters field. And he finishes fourth. And I think he got enough points to move up to, I think, 35th or 36th, which there's some OWGR Masters out there on Twitter that are projecting that he'll probably stay in the top 50 by the Masters cutoff. So that's impressive, I guess, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean, yeah, it is impressive that
you didn't want to say it. You didn't want to say it.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is, because I mean they don't play that often. I think a lot of the guys played well. No, I mean, I think a lot of the guys played well this last week, because they played that Boston event. Mm-hmm. So they're getting the repetitions in, and like we've always said, tournament golf is about it's about getting the reps. It's about getting into that pressure situations. And during the summer, when they were not having many events, they were showing up at the U.S. Open, or they were showing up at the Open Championship, just without the recent experience. And that's what these guys have done since high school and college, just starting in junior golf, is to play a lot and to play that competition there. But, it sucks that they're allowed to play in these events, because they stated numerous times that they wanted to play less, and now they're keeping guys out of the field. But I mean, I'm impressed that that Taylor Gooch and Patrick Reed. I mean, Reed had the lead. I know he went off early before the leaders went off,
Right.
but he actually held the lead for a little bit there. But I mean, I'm looking at it. You've got Gooch, Reed. Who else finished up there? That was, there's some. Abe Answer finished top 20.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some guys that played pretty well. I still think it's absolute garbage that they're playing in it, but apparently we're going to have a show at some point here with another individual or two or whatever that seem to love this idea and everything like that. And it is what it is. But it's just like, they came in here and it was there was some contention. I think a lot of that's mostly media built, and some of the players, some of the pros, the top guys, they legitimately hate it and everything. And a lot of them probably don't even care if they're in it there. But I don't know if you heard the one story that we'll talk about Sergio Garcia.
Absolutely.
Sergio fucking Garcia.
Yeah.
This guy here, so he plays in the first round, plays like trash, 76, not going to make the cut. Queen passes away. Doesn't play Friday, obviously. They're going to make a 36-hole cut still. He's got no chance to make the cut at that point. So he chooses to withdraw and fly back to the United States, fly back home, and everything like that. That happens. There's a lot of these guys do that and everything like that. But John Rahm's, one of his best friends, was the first alternate, I believe, in the tournament.
Right.
And couldn't get in, because once you start the tournament, whether you withdraw or not, they don't replace you. It's only before the tournament there. So these 18 guys that played are basically, cutting 18 guys that need these starts to make money, to earn points and money and world ranking stuff and whatnot. And it's just, that's the type of stuff and that's just Sergio Garcia in a nutshell. For the past 23 years is that's the summation of the human being that he is.
But not only doing that, then just being ever present at the Texas Alabama game.
Yeah,
I mean,
he lives in Austin,
right.
And then he's over there at the Longhorn Stadium, taking pictures like it's fucking nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I get that his wife's like, big Texas Longhorns fan, whatever, but now he's like an adopted fucking Texan. I mean, it's so that part bothers me almost more than anything else. Was that's like the icing on the cake for Sergio. I figured we'd have to address that. So my question for you is, are we riding for Billy Ho? He's taken on the LIV guys on Twitter, took on Taylor Gooch on Twitter this week, and then whatever that incident was with Ian Poulter on the practice screen, I would love to know what they were talking about. Yeah. I mean, so where are we at with Billy Ho here?
I you know what? Sign me up.
You're in.
I'm team Billy Ho right there. I mean, when he came after Taylor Gooch, because he's got a lot of buddies on the PGA Tour still. I mean, he's with Taylor Gooch is with
he's like Max buddies with Max Homa, yeah.
He's with those kind of popular dudes on tour, and they haven't said anything, and I don't blame them. I mean, if I was Homa or Joel Damon, I wouldn't even say a word about it, But Billy Ho, though, I like it. He's sticking up for people. And it's not just himself. Like he some of it's a little bit off. He's like talking about he's kind of frames it as this DP World Tour stalwart, and all he's basically done is WGC's majors and a couple events overseas. But I like I think Billy Ho. I'm a fan. I like his. I don't mind this at all, and I'm kind of anxious to see how he does this in the President's Cup. I doubt they'll talk much about it because they're not going to really focus on that. But I like that going forward. I mean, has he? I know you dislike him more than I do.
True.
Have you become a fan of the person?
I've appreciated his stance, just the solid stance on the behind the PGA Tour the last couple months. I appreciate that he's picked a side and he's ride or die. You have to say that. Yeah, I mean, do I like him? No, but I appreciate what he's done. I mean, and also I'm still a little bitter about the Memorial, him winning, at the tournament I was at this year. So no, I've maybe lightened a little bit. And next week at the President's Cup, I'll be on Team Billy for sure. I don't want to get in the President's Cup too much because we're going to talk about it next week, obviously. I'm interested. One more thing before we move on to the Fortinet, the Ryder Cup discussion for next year. I mean, I know it's early. I want to talk about the European team though, because Rory mentioned in an interview this week there's a solid 7 guys, and outside of that it's pretty wide open. So I'm like, who are the 7? Well, it's got to be him, Rahm, Hovland, Lowry, Hatton, Fleetwood, and who was I missing? Who was the 7th guy? Oh, it was really obvious. Dang it, I had these names earlier. What my point was, who would be someone that we could think that's gonna come up on the DP World Tour, or if they're playing the PGA Tour the next year, to potentially, be one of these 5 that Rory's not talking about.
I think, and it's not obvious, but I think you're going to have to look at the Hogard twins. Mm-hmm. Those guys are good. They're just, it's just a matter of finding their way. I think at least the younger one of the 2. I don't know if they're twins, but the one who's coming up now. I think he's going to be one of the stalwarts here pretty soon here, but they're going to have a lot of plug and play guys. Not a lot, but the U.S. generally has right now about 3 guys that they can kind of interchange, maybe 4. I think the European team is going to have about 4 to 5. I mean, you're going to look at Robert McIntyre, Guido Migliozzi of Italy,
Thomas Peters. That's what my guy. I think he'll be back.
Thomas Peters. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good one there.
By the way, the 7th guy was Matt Fitzpatrick. Sorry, I forgot.
Of course.
I mean, when you think of it on the surface, those 7 are pretty good players. Good 7.
They see what concerns me, and we'll talk about Ryder Cup, over the next. We got a couple of years to do that, but that's great that the U.S. just boat raced the European team. I mean, first of all, they were overmatched and like that. But it was a home game, and you want to show me something as far as any of these teams, whether it's a President's Cup team or whether it's a Ryder Cup team, win on the road. I mean, that's just what you've got to do. You look at, I mean, that Ryder Cup team at what was it? One that made the comeback there. Mickelson Rose dropped the bomb on him. It was the Chicago course.
Oh,
just a few years ago.
Medina, 2012.
Medina, yeah, Medina. I mean,
never forget that one. Yeah.
That freaking European team, was not. Well, they were maybe not as good, but they were close. But I mean, they came out and won on the road. That's the stuff to me. That tells me if you're for real or not. Like, you could win when the crowd is cheering for you and everything like that, but that's what when these guys are jeering you and everything like that, which is not what golf pros are used to. It's can you play well during those types of situations. So
30 years. I think it's been 30 years since the American team won the road.
30 years. I mean, oh my God, think about that. I mean, that is so long. So yeah. So I mean, I loved it. I mean, I thought that it was fun to watch at Whistling Straits. I think everything that the U.S. did just worked, and Stricker was the perfect captain for it. And they just had just a great lineup and everything like that. That was playing great golf. But let's go to Rome and see what happens, because it's going to be just a different ball game, and that's where you've got. That's just where you've got to. That's where you're going to be tested, because you're just out of your comfort zone, and a lot of these guys aren't necessarily like that. So them having that 7, and if they could find 5 guys that are playing good golf by next September, I mean, this is going to be a match. So, looking at, I don't even know what the odds are. The U.S. is probably minus 210 or something like that. I mean, they're definitely going to be heavily juiced, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a pushover. I don't know if I could ever bet the European team. This is one sporting event that I just don't know if I could bet to win that, right, because I'd have to, that's such a conflict. But no, it'll be interesting, and this year for the President's Cup, which we'll talk about later, it's going to be the same type of thing. Is it's going to be bigger for this international team to come on the road and everything like that, because that's the hardest thing for me is road game, and that's just sports in general, right? I mean, a football team, basketball teams.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say this isn't. It feels like after Whistling Straits, it's a shoe-in, right? That U.S. is going to go on this dominant run, but like you said, you still gotta do this thing on the road. It's just a much different thing in the Ryder Cup, and I just don't think the European team is going to be a pushover. Minus 190 currently, which might be some value. Which I almost bet the President's Cup a couple weeks ago when I knew all these guys from LIV. Or from on the PGA Tour that were going to be on the President's Cup team, we're going to LIV, like Cam Smith, etc. So that number, I think, is over minus 500 now. There was, I thought, a little bit of value even at like minus 300, minus 350, because this thing next week is going to be a total blowout. And I'm still excited to talk about it. But yeah, the Ryder Cup, excited to just see how the next year plays out. The U.S. see who's going to land on that team. We certainly know of a few guys that will certainly be locks, but it will be fun to see how it transpires. Really, the Euro team didn't lose that much to LIV. Most of their guys were these, past their prime guys anyhow. So we'll see. I do like McIntyre. You mentioned the Hogard twins, Peters, maybe a Thomas Dietrich. One of them, make a run here. Let's move on. We've already gone past the point where I thought we'd be on this show. Always happens. So new season is here. The Fortinet Championship, also known as the Fortnite in our eyes, is this week. Out in Silverado, Max Homa is the defending champion. Looking at this course a little bit today, really, I think it's the second most narrow fairways on tour, which was really surprising to me, but not penal rough, still very scoreable. I do remember the final round last year, and not if you remember, it was completely baked out, and it was really entertaining and fun because it was playing so firm and fast, and Homa had that huge comeback on Matt McNeely to steal it. But really this week, I'm mainly looking for guys that are birdie makers, make a lot of birdies, either in a round or an event total. Obviously good iron players here, and also course history. I think guys that usually play well here all the time. For whatever reason, Brendan Steele always plays well here. Cameron Champ. So guys that aren't necessarily the straightest drivers, like I mentioned, the narrow fairways, but it doesn't really offer too much penalty to you. So that's what I'm looking at here. Also just looking at guys that are value plays, and we'll talk about a couple in a second. Anything you're focused on this week?
No, pretty much the same. Just we want to look at guys who got good course history, because this is it seems to always come into play like that. And then you got to look at guys who can make birdies, because there's going to be a bunch. And like you said, the rough short enough that not necessarily the ball striking metrics are going to be as critical, but just guys who can just make a bunch of birdies.
Max Homa, this is when it's like a weak field, and B, it's the fall season. Max is the favorite. I can't remember him ever being a favorite before at 10-1 plus 1,000. Hideki and Corey Connors at 16-1. Mav McNeely, Cam Davis at 22. Sahith Theegala at 28-1. And we'll go Taylor Pendreth at 30-1. Those are the guys at 30-1 and under. Matt McNeely was my guy last year. I was ride or die at 50-1, I remember, and he was there, and it really got stolen from him right at the end. Any interest in Mav, or are you looking at someone else there under 30-1?
There's interest, and I think you can pretty much. I'm going to auto bet him for the top 20 with just a little bit of a plus money there. I like him, but there's some other names that I like here. I'll start with we'll go 30-1 as Taylor Pendreth. Dude's a bomber, Canadian player. Just was named to the President's Cup team as a captain's pick. Fits the golf course profile. I think he's going to be really motivated to play well and have his game rounding form here. And I could see that big of a selection there is being warranted to play well and everything like that. So I like him there. His fellow countryman, Corey Connors, don't like the odds as much as at 16-1, but it's worth noting and maybe shopping around and finding a better book. He does struggle with the putting. I think his best surface, though, is Poana, which is what the greens are, but just a supreme ball striker. I could see both those guys playing pretty well. I'll definitely bet Pendreth to win with some top 10 insurance. Might do Connors as well if I can find a little bit better number, maybe closer to 20-1. But don't mind many of those names there. But those are the ones that the two that stick out to me.
I love Taylor Pendreth. He has played great this year. He was hurt for a long stretch, but when he's been out there and healthy, he has played really, really well. And I think it was a great pick by Trevor Evelman for next week. Great course fit at Quail Hollow. I think if anyone's going to stand out next week, he has a great chance from the international team. So I like him this week as well. Sahith Theegala, I saw him had more rounds in the 60s this year than any other player on tour. He is just a pure birdie maker. I feel like he's going to win at some point this season. I could say that now that we're in the new season. Be cool to see. I know you and I are both big fans. He is a fan favorite. So it might be a bit of a homer pick, but I like him at 28-1. I think that's a pretty reasonable number. Especially when you look at a guy like Matt McNeely, who's also never won, and he's ahead of him on the board, and has played much better golf this year. So that would be my pick there. I don't mind Cam Davis as well if you wanted to go that route. Another course fit, playing well, played pretty well in the FedEx Cup as well. 35 and above here to 50-ish. Davis Riley at 35, Emiliano Grillo at 40, Alex Noren, Denny McCarthy, Brendan Steele at 45, Tom Hoagie, Troy Merritt, Andrew Putnam at 50, Taylor Montgomery at 50, Thomas Dietrich, who just got his card on the PGA Tour. Mentioned him earlier. He's at 50, Chris Kirk at 50. And then we got a slew of guys at 60. Woodland, Taylor Moore, Ches, Trey Mullinex, Justin Suh. I know who I like here. He's going to be my favorite bet of the tournament. I mentioned to you earlier that I just love the number on Davis Riley at 35-1. I was hoping he was going to get picked for the President's Cup team next week. Did not happen. I understand it why, but I just think this guy is such a good player. He had a great year. He was the rookie of the year outside of Cameron Young, and this seems like a nice place for him. What do you like here?
I do like Riley. He's going to be on my card as a win bet. But you're right. Could have potentially been a President's Cup pick. So good player there. Like you mentioned, Brendan Steele, horses for courses here. I think you've got to bet him in some way. You don't have to bet him to win, but he's going to probably figure out a way to make the cut and play well, top 10, top 20, something like that. The names in this group, though, that I like are Taylor Montgomery. Just got his tour card. He was the scoring leader last year on the Corn Ferry Tour. So had a really, really good season. Can go low to be the scoring leader on the Corn Ferry Tour. I mean, yes, you got to be consistent, but you got to be able to go deep and make a bunch of birdies. So probably lacks the course experience that we'd mentioned, but he does fill that checkbox for for birdies, and he is a good ball striker there. Pretty good number at 50-1. Not great, but I think that's definitely worth a nibble there. And then I'm gonna talk about him a lot this year. Is Justin Sue at 60-1? He won the Corn Ferry Tour Championship at Victoria National here in Indiana. Had a good season. He was the third guy, the fourth guy when they had Morikawa, Wolf, Hovland, and Sue was the other guy, and just it didn't quite take to the success that the other guys had every bit of talent there. So he got his tour card. So he's going to be playing a lot this year. I expect a lot from him. Good all around player. He kind of does remind me of the Morikawa thing, where he's a good ball striker, makes a lot of birdies, not a lot of weaknesses. He's just obviously for the first couple of years it was between the ears. But if he can kind of figure that out and just focus on playing good golf, he's a guy who could win out there in this 2022-2023 season. So 60-1, I don't mind a little bit on, and I'm going to also look at these guys in that top 10, top 20.
Yeah, Justin's probably it's kind of like the George Harrison of that group of guys. So now maybe he's found his way. He's playing on the PGA Tour. Matt Wolf isn't, right? So hey, maybe he's taken the long road here. But I do like him this season, like you mentioned. And Taylor Montgomery, good pick. Scoring leader on the second best tour in the world is nothing to sneeze at. You missed the joke.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out guys later on the field here that I know the names of.
Taylor Montgomery, second scoring leader on the second best tour in the world. That was a dig at LIV.
Zach Johnson.
Okay, here we go. By the way, I'll echo those guys. Trey Mullinax was playing insanely good in the.
I like Trey this week.
I don't know if he'll win again, but why is he so low compared to like Troy Merritt? I don't really quite get. I think he's a little underpriced considering he's won in the last 10 starts, and he's played really well in some big events. Jason Day at 65, Webb at 65. I'm just kind of naming some guys that are 65 to 100 here. Cam Champ, he's going to do it at some point where it's like Cam Champ's been off the mat for 20 events, and boom, he's going to maybe win or finish in the top 3. Zach's guy Cooch, Alex Smalley's in there. And then we got a bunch of guys at 100-1 like Pat Rogers, Nick Hardy. He's a Corn Ferry Tour guy that played well. Brendan Todd, Justin Lauer, anyone there and that range. By the way, Pat Rogers, a bit of a horse for the course here as well. He's really played this tournament relatively well for Pat Rogers standards.
You gonna win bet him?
Of course, yes.
Of course you will.
100-1. 100-1. Yeah.
No, I'm going to get on the Cam Champ thing just because I can't miss it. There's going to be one of these events, whether it's the Fortnite or the Rooster one, the Sanderson Farm, whatever it is that he's won before. He's just going to figure out a way to do that there. Kevin Streelman finished top 5 here a couple of years ago. He's just your veteran guy, good ball striker. I mean, there's I don't know. I don't think he's going to win this event, but I don't mind at some of the odds that you can get there. Nick Hardy has been playing in the Corn Ferry playoffs. I think I read somewhere that he's got some sort of conditional status and he's got to make the cut this week to get into some sort of medical exemption. So,
was he not a graduate?
No, I don't think he's a graduate, or he is a graduate, but if he gets into this major medical exemption, he gets better status at the start. So there is motivation. We like to do storylines in football and all this other stuff and reasons to place bets on guys. I'm not saying Nick Hardy's going to win this event, but he's got motivation to make the cut. There is that. So, there's going to be the man to play good golf there. So, how far are we going down?
100, and then we can go bombs.
I feel pretty comfortable with those three.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in on Champ. I think if you want a really low buy-in for a guy that is total boom or bust, 4 PGA Tour wins. I mean, it's a good little career. I mean, I was just thinking, would you rather have Cam Champ's career or Corey Connors? Corey Connors is incredibly consistent. He's just incredibly present in big tournaments, but he's got one win, and Cam Champ's got 4. Golf is just a weird game, It's it really is, because for pretty much by every metric, Corey Connors is just a much better player, but Cam Champ's got wins. So I'm in on Champ. I'm in on Pat Rogers. You're gonna laugh. I kind of have a feeling about Jason Day this week. And I never feel anything about Jason Day except kind of laughter about his injury status, which, by the way, I'll bet him, and he'll have a back injury on the 8th hole. And which
6,500 is not a bad number, and I mean,
I feel
in theory,
the golf course
rested.
fits him too. I feel like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude can tear apart some par 5s.
Mm-hmm.
Great putter. I mean, he could putt those Poana because he lives in Ohio, so he's got used to the Poana green. So I mean, it's not bad if you feel comfortable about him playing 72 holes.
Exactly. And Webb there at 65 is really interesting, but Webb he's really been playing some just tough golf for a while. Yeah. Remember in 2020 when people were like, is Webb Simpson the best player in the world after the tee shot? I mean, that was a real conversation because he was playing that good. That seems like forever ago. All right. Over 100, 100 to 1 and above. Any bombs that you like? This is obviously, this isn't like a top heavy field, so this isn't a crazy thought that one of these
there
guys
is. Yeah, no. Sometimes we say for some of these events, don't bother betting these guys to win. I mean, this field is not that case. I mean, you very well could see a 65 to 1 or 150 to 1 guy that's going to win this event. I mean, it's just how it's going to be there. So, a couple bombs. I do like Brandon Wu at 130 to 1. Second year on tour. I saw a stat at lunchtime today that he, I think he was top 20 in greens in regulation, and he was top 30 in par 5 scoring. 2 very, very important stats you've got to have at this golf course here. He's had some top 10 finishes. Is he going to win? 130 to 1. I mean, that's one of those things that you're just going to take the chance on. But I mean, there's things that jumped out at me there that I really, really liked. And then the other guy, I think he's at the same. Let me look here. Austin Ecro.
Yep.
Eckroat. He finished second in the Corn Ferry event. Was a great amateur player just a few years ago. I don't know if he won the USAM or if he finished runner up, but had a pretty good amateur career. Early 20s. So, he's made it fairly quickly. But he's finished top 5 in several Corn Ferry events. I do like him to play well this week, and he hits it pretty long too, so could fit this golf course hopefully pretty well.
What our guy Christopher Goddard.
Chris Goddard, 130 as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't play great in the Corn Ferry Tour finals. I think I bet him every tournament and didn't work out well. But I'm with you on Ecro. He was one of my guys I had circled at 130. Will Gordon played great in the KFT finals. He actually won a tournament. He's at 150. If you didn't like a win there, plus 1,000. That's a great number for a top 10. I also have further down David Lingmerth, who also won a tournament during the finals. He's at 250 to 1, 16 to 1 for a top 10. So just something to monitor with those guys there. Harris English, it just jumped off the page to me. I know he was not healthy last year. I don't know what his health status is completely, but if you get indication, do some Twitter research if he's healthy. That's as good a bomb as you'll find. I mean, for a guy that was
Ryder Cup guy,
incredible last year, right? At 150 to 1. So that's my bombs. It's a decent tournament. It's not gonna wow you with names, but I think it's usually on Sunday evening. It finishes like 7-8 o'clock Sunday evening with the West Coast finish, with maybe the late games of football getting over. You check out the last few holes. I think it's a good little supplement to Sunday football.
Yeah, I agree. This is it won't be bad. The golf course is cool. I'll be on Golf Channel all week, and field is solid, and it's normally got a pretty good finish to it. So I'm looking forward to to seeing the event there and seeing how these young guys that came over from the Corn Ferry Tour to see if they how they kind of fare in their first real go around as PGA Tour members.
And a couple things to watch. Usually, I mean, this has just been a trend the last 4 or 5 seasons with the wraparound season. If a guy usually wins in the fall, there's like a reasonable chance he might win again. These guys usually play 3-4 fall events, and there's usually a guy or Brendan Todd. They get on a little heater and they win a couple of 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4 events, whatever it is. So if whoever wins this week, just kind of watch them. And I mean, these events are just as critical as they are in March or April or May to the FedEx Cup. So a guy has a hot fall. I mean, he might just book his ticket to the Tour Championship with a win and a couple of good finishes. So it all matters. Next season with the schedule, not this season, but the 23-24 schedule will be insanely different with all of the elevated events, and maybe we'll talk about that. We'll argue with one of the Zachs on that at another episode about the future tour schedule and how good it is and how beneficial it is now, and the setup is amazing, but that'll be a fight for another day. Johnny Strouser, appreciate you being on. And next week will be the President's Cup, so that should be fun.
Can't wait to talk about more golf here. Thank you.
Not on Twitter, actually. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. Check us out. And last week, NFL picks, I went 2-3, so not great. My real life betting picks were actually much better than my show picks. But so keep checking out football shows, golf shows as we go along. Appreciate everyone's support, and we will catch you next time.